Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that like button if you like my video. Also click on that notification bell. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about the NIC bonding. A lot of time the hiring manager or the technical people that you're going to have the interview with will ask you these technical questions. Is NIC bonding, why do we need NIC bonding? What's the purpose of the NIC bonding? Or walk me through the process of how the NIC bonding works. Or how do you configure the NIC bonding? A lot of questions sometimes have the same answer, but they ask it in a different way. Phrasing is different. So anyway, every time you've been asked is why do we need a NIC bonding? That's one question. Second, how do you configure the NIC bonding? That's a separate question. So let's take both of these questions one at a time. First is, why do you need a NIC bonding? So I'm sure everybody knows what a NIC is. If not, a NIC or a port is actually the port, the network port on your computer. Also stands for network information card. That network interface card, not information, NIC, network interface card. That is a little port, depends on the speed, either 1 gig, 10 gig, or whatever the speed is. You have that one port connected with the Ethernet cable. So that Ethernet cable connected to the server is providing you internet service or network service to communicate from one server to another. Right? That's what we use. For your laptop nowadays, you use Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi adapter is actually also have built-in Wi-Fi technology, which we'll cover later. But let's talk about the NIC. Now, your computer is running in a production environment. What happens if that particular NIC, that port, goes down or becomes defective? Your computer is down, your communication, your workflow, the application that you're running from one server to another, they are down. So, how do you fix it? Well, first of all, you have to bring the server down, take the card out, and insert the new card in. How much is the downtime? Depends where the data center is, who is working on it, how effective that a person is, or how much knowledge that person has. So, are you really going to afford that much of downtime? No, right? So that's what the NIC bonding comes in. When you have one card, one port on it, and then you have another card, another port on it, you actually combine them or bond them together. That's the right word in Linux or in IT, is bond them together. Or sometimes what people do is they have two NICs on the same card and they combine them together, which in my opinion is not the right way. You gotta have the bonding on two different network cards. So anyway, you bond them together. Now it also serves two purposes, by the way. One is it gives you redundancy, meaning if your one NIC goes down, you have another NIC that is still functioning. That's one benefit. Second benefit, if you have, let's suppose, 1 gig of NIC and you add another 1 gig of NIC and you bond them together, you could aggregate them, meaning you could have a throughput of 2 gig instead of 1 gig. So you could have an extra bandwidth or a redundancy as well. So that's how you need to answer the question, why do you need NIC bonding? Is to save or protect your production environment in case a disaster or a system crashes. Second is, how do you configure it? Configuration of the NIC is very simple and straightforward. You don't have to go into each and every detail. The way you have to answer is, first you have to make sure on your computer the NIC driver exists. The driver that allows you to do the bonding, that driver exists. If not, install that driver using the command modprob. You install it, the driver is installed. The next thing is you gotta have two NICs, of course, right? If you're in a virtual environment, add the next second NIC. If you're in a physical environment, you gotta make sure you have a physical NIC, right? Let's say ETH0 and ETH1. You have to combine those together. In order to combine them, you gotta have them together. So now you have to create a file in etc sysconfig network scripts file, and then you have to create two different files. NIC bond1, for first master file, and then you have to create a slave file. You could create bond 0 if it's the first time you're creating it, and then you create ETH1 and ETH2 as a slave files. The configuration inside, the parameters is inside, you could get it anywhere or even online. You don't have to remember everything, what goes in. And believe me, the person who's asking you this question is not looking for you to answer every single detail of configuration. They just wanted to know whether you know how this configuration works. You set up a file, you create the NICs, you put the parameters, you restart the network service, and that's where you're going to have your NIC bond together. If there are any issues with it and you're not getting your network throughput, then you could always go to warlog messages to find out where the issue is. But you'll find out. And of course, to restart the network services, what the command you will run? For older version, you run service network restart or service restart network, but the newer version you will run system CTL command. So it depends which version you're running. So that's why you perform the NIC bonding.